The other monument, which is the square one, is inscribed, "From the spring at Chadwell and from this source of Amwell, the aqueduct meanders for the space of XL miles, conveying health, pleasure and convenience to the metropolis of Great Britain, an important work, since man cannot more nearly imitate the deity than bestowing health." And so, what are the origins of the New River? It all dates from the 16th century, when problems began to arise when the population of the capital was growing, and the problem was the Thames was both a major shipping route, a sewer, and a source of water, and disease became rife. The proposal was to bring clean water into the city by building a new river, and this was discussed as early as 1570, but it wasn't until 1604 that Edmund Colthurst obtained a charter to build the river and carry out a survey. Colthurst carried out the survey and designed the new river to run from Chadwell Springs, Ware, Great Amwell, and into London, but by 1605 Colthurst ran into financial problems. So it was then that the project was taken over by Hugh Middleton, a Welsh entrepreneur whose interests ranged from trading in jewellery, cloth making and banking, and he set up the New River Company along with other investors. But again, they ran into trouble because there are lots of opposition from landowners along the route that Colthurst had surveyed. Some feared that the land could become waterlogged. The work nevertheless began on 1608, but it was long going. The problems were resolved when King James I threw his weight behind the project, and he invested a considerable sum in return for a percentage of the shares, and opposition to royalty melted away and the project went ahead. So work began on the 20th of February 1608. Workers were paid. Labourers employed by Middleton are recorded at earning 10 pence a day, old pennies, and an extra 2 pence if they're working in water. And skilled men, such as carpenters, were paid 1 and 4 pence a day, and bricklayers can earn 1 and 6 pence. And this compared well with the average wages at the time of agricultural labour, who would expect only 8 pence a day. So the river was designed to drop with a constant fall of 5 inches per mile. It was completed, and there was a grand opening of the new river on the 29th of September 1613. It's amazing to think that this feat of engineering was completed in 1613, that our new river, based in Hertfordshire, still supplies water to London every day, and quite a considerable amount too. So changes were made in Victorian times. The river was extended, the new river, and it started tapping water from the River Lee. Along the route, pumping houses were installed during Victorian times to get additional water from deep wells along the route. But it's amazing, isn't it? Amazing feat that this new river has been running and supplying water to London since 1613. So what we're going to do now, later we're going to look at the source of the new river, look at the meads between Hertford and Ware, and we're going to look at the area of Chadwell Springs and some of the pumping and houses and that were installed. But whilst we're in the area, we're now going to look at the lakes that you can see on the map here. Yes, as you can see on the map, we're going to turn left down a footpath, cross over the railway line, and we're going to head past Great Hormead Lake and head towards Hollycross Lake. And just by Hollycross Lake is a disused railway. So isn't that interesting? You turn left and you head towards the railway line. This railway line was completed in 1843 and it runs up to the Hertford East railway station. So we cross over the railway line. Take care whilst crossing the railway line, as it's extremely dangerous. Do look right and left. The railway company recently put this leaflet through our door following some recent tragic accidents. So do look right and left before you cross, and then after crossing we come to the River Lee Navigation, which is a canal which was built and completed. It runs up to Hertford again, and it was completed in 1767. It's a lovely local amenity. Lots of people walk along it. They're nice picnic benches, as you can see. People live along the canal in boats, and there are quite a few holiday makers going up and down, cruising up and down on the canal. And like I said, you got these nice picnic areas. We now come to Great Hormead Lake, which is a nature reserve. The lake attracts a lot of wildlife. A lot of birds from all over the world are attracted to the water here. Right, we're now going to head off towards Hollycross Lake and the Hollycross Road, and we're going to proceed along the old disused railway line, which is now called Amwell Way. It's quite straight. Back when I first arrived here in the 1980s, there was more evidence of there having been a railway line, but it feels like everything's been a bit sanitised now, and there's more of a footpath. But you used to see the odd sleepers or the odd coal bunker. They've all gone. And further up, beyond the bridge, there used to be a railway station which has now completely disappeared, and there's no evidence of it ever having been there in the first place. But I can assure you, back in the 1980s, there was an old railway station and somebody used to live there, and it's completely vanished. We're now crossing over a lovely stream, and you can see in this photo evidence of the old railway bridge that used to cross the river. Returning now to the footpath, we carry on straight ahead, and just in front of us we can now see the bridge, the old railway bridge. The Hollycross Road crosses over the railway line. The bridge was built in 1910. And now we have a view of the Hollycross Lake. And isn't it beautiful? And on this panel it explains that otters have been reintroduced into the area since the 1980s. Isn't that lovely? Now, can you imagine my shock as I returned to my car in Little Amwell was I saw that people had dumped some of this rubbish at the end of the lane. Isn't it shocking? Boiler and a washing machine. Isn't it disgusting that people fly tipping? I don't know. Right, we're now going to head off to where the New River starts, in the Meads and at Chadwell Springs. But before we do so, I'm just going to give you a quick quiz. So, which of these statements are true or false? Statement 1. The New River is not really a river, but is in fact an artificial watercourse built by human hand to bring water from Chadwell and Amwell Springs, the twin springs near Ware in Hertfordshire, to central London. Is that true or false? Statement 2. It was named the New River and was built between 1602 and 1613 and has been supplying London with fresh drinking water ever since. The New River currently supplies about 8% of London's drinking water. Is that true or false? The New River is the name of a brewery situated in Hoddesdon on the banks of the New River. Is that true or false? Well, the answer is that all three statements are true. New River is a lovely craft beer that's made locally here at Hoddesdon, and we still provide nearly 8 to 10% of London's drinking water from our area in Hertfordshire. Okay, so if you have a look at this map that I'm now showing you, you'll see some numbers. Basically, number 3 is the Chadwell Spring, which is the original source of the New River in 1609. although an initial channel was started in 1604. The spring yields up to 4.3 megalitres a day of water, rising in a 30-metre circular basin which is known as a banjo, and on the side of it is a stone monument inscribed with historic dates and river distance. Number 1 on the map is the New Gorge, which is the new starting point of the New River, and an aqueduct was built there. It now draws water from the River Lee, taking about 102 megalitres a day. 2 on the map is the Meads. In fact, the whole valley is the Meads, and it's a flood meadow, and it's now being managed for nature conservation. And there's a combination of ditches crisscrossing the area and some footpaths, flood water, and there was grazing, and in fact there's been grazing there since medieval times. And when I first arrived in Ware, grazing was still happening. You had cows on the side, but since then, since the cows have gone, over the last 10 years or so, these bushes have grown, and you used to be able to see the spring from the road, from the Hertford Road, about opposite where the Chadwell Springs Golf Club is now, but you barely get a glimpse of it. Now, there is a footpath which you can take down from the road down to the Meads, and you might get a little glimpse of the banjo from there. But another place you get a glimpse of it is on the flyover, which goes over the Meads. This flyover was built in 1976 when the A10 was improved, and in fact the A10 run through the golf course, and on one side the golf course has remained, and on the other side a new housing estate was built with all sorts of golfing names like Iron Drive and Par Close and names like that. So I'm now going to show you the New Gorge, which is the new starting point of the New River. And the gorge is a building which was constructed in 1856, and it regulates the water intake from the River Lee. Along the New River is this marble gorge structure which was erected in 1770 to control the water taken from the former intake of the River Lee. And nearby is a prominent sort of timber shed thing called the White House Sluice, and you can see the sluice here. And then further along the New River you have got a Grade 2 listed building which was a pumping station which was built in 1885. So indeed you can walk the whole length of the New River now pretty much, and here I'm going to just put up the Thames Water board recommend that you can do it in there are three stages, as you can see on their leaflet here, and quite a nice thing to do, I think. And I'm just going to show you a picture of the loop. There are various loops which were taken out eventually, but they're now pretty much ornamental, and this is a very pretty part of the New River Loop which goes through Enfield. Finally, as I was walking home from the Meads, I walked past this house and garden, and I saw all these bees swarming. Look at them swarming on this garden fence. I don't know why they were doing this and what the bees were doing, but goodness me, I've never seen anything like that, and it did make me worry a little bit. But yeah, so if anybody can explain what the bees were doing and why they're swarming like that, do write in on the comments bit. And I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and do please subscribe, and do please kindly give me a lovely thumbs up, and yes, please keep looking in on new installments of all sorts of interesting historical buildings and the like round in Hertfordshire. Anyway, do take care now, and all the very best. Bye bye.